I want to prove with this that Armenia can have new genres and new styles, and the Armenian music industry can develop, and it can still appeal to other people as well. We don't have to just stick to our duduk or traditional music.
Or kind of get stereotyped into just one or two genres.
Exactly,
one or
yes.
two genres.
Yes.
Is it mainly rock that's being taken up as a contemporary new music style in Armenia?
Not only. Also a lot of rap or hip hop.
Okay, the global hip hop phenomenon.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Also a lot of R&B and just pop in general. Yes.
So house, techno. Not really.
That as well. But it's not as advanced as in Europe. Obviously, you would expect that. It's a very small market, and the musicians themselves maybe have never left Armenia, and what they know is just through the research from the internet or the TV. But yes, there's also dance music, techno, lounge music. You can get everything, in Armenia. You can get everything, but not everybody. There are not many groups, let's just put it that way, or many musicians who specialize in those different genres.
Okay.
Whereas the traditional one is the one that's most developed.
Okay, so that's still where the majority.
That's right,
of music
in classical music.
Okay, I want to ask you about the main ingredients, the key ingredients in traditional Armenian music.
Right. Are we talking about instruments?
Let's start with instruments, yeah.
Definitely would be duduk. Then we have Armenian kanun, then Armenian kamancha. Why I stress...
Kanun is dulcimer?
Kanun is a string instrument. It's very similar to any other kanuns, but again, just like with kamancha, we have our own versions that through the centuries we have made it ours to make it sound like ours.
Okay.
Then there's saz and oud and other instruments that also other countries in the Middle East use a lot.
Okay.
So those would be the main ones, but duduk remains the main one.
And then percussion-wise, davul, the double-headed...
The hall, we use the hall in Armenia.
Hand drum. Davul. How do you pronounce it?
The hall.
The hall.
The hall, yes.
Okay, the hall. Okay, good. And what about lyrically?
Lyrically, the traditional songs usually are about love, or they are patriotic songs, and some of them are based on legends or on poems. If we're talking about pure traditional music, then we are going centuries back when they were created in the mountains of Armenia. I recently heard Chris Wood, who was singing English folk, and he was singing about the crisis and everything. And I thought, you couldn't do that in Armenia. You can't create an Armenian folk song just singing about the crisis, how the petrol is expensive and we're getting made redundant and all that. Our traditional songs are truly coming from centuries ago, written by Komitas or by Sayat Nova, or even before that, long before that.
And passed down through the generations.
They have history and story. Yeah, all of them.
Okay, well, let's hear another.
Oh
What a stunning voice she has. Who is she?
Does. That was Hasmik Harutyunyan.
Your namesake.
That's right, performing a song called Gorani. And that is an example of a very traditional Armenian song. You were saying that you could hear, you couldn't quite figure out what the sound is. That's duduk. Of course, you knew it was duduk, of course. Yes. But you know, it sounds like a human voice. And that was performed by Gevor Dabarian, who is one of the very talented Armenian duduk players in Armenia.
It's kind of got a flute-like kind of quality. It's kind of airy, the sound of that duduk. In terms of Armenian artists that are active here in London, I mean, who do we have? We've got Tigran Alexanyan, who plays the duduk. And he is the most professional one based here in the UK. And Music of Armenia, or I work very closely with him because he's very passionate about his music and he's very professional. And we did an event recently in April at St. Ethelberga Centre called The Voice of Duduk, which was to commemorate the 95th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. The event was absolutely sold out and it was a very special event. It was absolutely beautiful. The UK audience definitely loves duduk. Yes. They love it. They do. Well, you're there to make sure we hear much more about duduk over as time goes by. Hasmik, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for.
Unfortunately.
Yes, well, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to listen to, I think. Thank you so much for enlightening us about music from Armenia.
Thank you
Some of the music
much.
From Armenia.
Some of it, exactly. Thank you very much for having me here. And I'd like to just say that while I was waiting for my turn, I was listening to the music you were playing and it was a beautiful mix. So well done for this show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we'll have to do a mutual appreciation society thing afterwards. But one more thing about you. We just need to know for definite about your website so that people can find out more information.
Right. For those of you who love Armenian music and would like to know more in case there are any events coming up, please visit www.musicofarmenia.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, MySpace, Twitter, everywhere else. Just Google us and join our mailing list.
Yeah, you are the gadget freak, aren't you? We haven't even talked about your new iPhone that you bought today. The iPhone 4. The iPhone 4. Well, we're going to go and play with the iPhone 4.
And I will let you touch it.
Please, if you wouldn't mind. I'd be very happy. Okay, so thanking Hasmik Movsisyan so much for coming in today. Now, the news is going to be next. After that, the wonderful Jonathan Lampon with conversation and more music. And I'd like to thank Jamie Collins and Bella and Val on production for tonight. Thank you so much for listening in London and beyond. Take care. Have a great weekend. I'll speak to you next week on Saturday at 8 o'clock for another A World in London. Good night from me, DJ Ritu.
سرزار مانمکه بکرز بمان چم درسن خار نخار تو برمانسه